The most important contest the Republican 2016ers are concerned about right now is the invisible primary. It's the backstage sprint to the real primary, a combination of fundraising, honing a message, and some other things. To help us figure out who's winning it, we brought in Republican guru Alex Castellanos and Democratic savant Steve McMahon. We are going to talk about this invisible primary. There's a lot of different potential categories: biography, policy, et cetera, et cetera. We're just picked three topics, three areas in the invisible primary. We're only grading in terms of who's in the best position in these areas to win the Republican nomination, not the general election. And we're going to keep score. We're going to ask you for your top two picks. The ones you give to first place, you're going to get 2 points, and you're going to get 1 point. 1 point's going to go to the people who came in second. So let's start with message. Alex, who you got, number one, number two, message so far?
The most well-rounded Republican candidate, Scott Walker, number one on message. Libertarian flavor, but a social conservative and an economic conservative.
All right, give us number two right now.
Number two, the soul of the Republican Party, Ben Carson. Undistilled essence of conservatism. All the other candidates are old.
Okay, we're going to come back to that in a minute for sure. Steve, go.
My first pick, Scott Walker, because in a Republican primary, anger and animosity and attacks on Obama work very, very well. And my second pick, of course, is Ted Cruz for the very same reason: anger, animosity, and Obama hating seem to be the order of the day.
All right, I got number one here. I got Marco Rubio myself. Here he is. He's young, he's dynamic, and he's Hispanic, and he speaks it and lives it all rolled up in one. Number two, I got Jeb Bush. Both this guy talking like a general election candidate. I think that's the right way to go message-wise.
Primary?
Even in a primary, that's how you got to do it.
Jeb Bush, like John McCain, Mitt Romney before him, this guy has the best message now, taking on the establishment of the party in some ways, the right wing of the party in some ways. Establishment message always wins. And number two is Scott Walker. He's taking the Wisconsin message and passion, bringing it national. So we got a mixed bag there.
Yeah,
a lot of Walkers. Let's start with you. Let's start with you in Carson, though.
Yeah, really.
I understand you say the distilled conservative message, but like, what really is it? What are the elements of the Carson message that you think are powerful right now?
Well, right now, the moral component, which is at the core of all Republican primary voting. And there's no competition for that. Ted Cruz, angry, politically too self-interested. Santorum, old. You know, there's no Michelle Bachmann. That whole Huckabee is not going to pick up where he did last year. So all that, I think, is going to... Ben Carson's going to get a huge ride and shape what a lot of this Republican contest is about.
I'm interested in knowing why it is that the two of you guys, neither one of you have Jeb Bush in your top two, and we have Jeb Bush both in our top two.
Because you said primary.
Right.
I agree with everything that you guys said with respect to the general election. Jeb Bush is the strongest general election nominee by far. He's got the best message for a general. He'll be very competitive and could easily win.
Romney and McCain had the best general election message they went to. All right, we're going to move on.
Here's why Halper may have stumbled on the truth. Yeah. You can run small. You can run for a small slice and polarize and win a primary. Or you can also run big and
win 40%. All right, let's go to fundraising. We're all going to have Jeb number one in money. So just want your second choice. Steve, start with you. Who's the second most powerful Republican right now?
I think it'll be Scott Walker because of what he did.
Hold up your little sign for us.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Right. Scott Walker
will be the second. And whoever, by the way, whoever harnesses the power of the small donor, which could be Scott Walker, it also could be a Christian conservative who runs on moral values. The reason I think Walker is because the people who don't like unions really like Scott Walker.
Who's Alex got for number two? I know you got Bush for number one.
Walker number two. He's run 3 national campaigns, and the real campaign is going to be the campaign outside the campaign that can raise unlimited money. Scott Walker has the Koch brothers and the establishment.
You guys are both, I think you're both idiots most of the time, but on this particular instance, because I got Scott Walker as number two, too, I'm right with you. You're geniuses.
We're geniuses.
The Academy agrees.
Would say, wrong. This is a guy, Ted Cruz, small donors. He's got a great grassroots base, and he is going to be the king of the super PACs. He's going to get super PAC checks that would pay your salaries for 15 years.
He also may be the king of the $20 check.
Yes,
one of these
he's going to be good with
one of these
little
people, and it's not going to be Jeb.
Bundling is a waste of time. If you can do grassroots and you can do $5, $10 million super PAC checks, that's big.
I'm curious whether you guys
that to add up to a couple $100 million.
Is there enough money out there? Is there enough money out there in the world for Marco Rubio in a race where Jeb Bush is running?
Actually, there is. Marco Rubio is in better position than people think. He can draft right behind Jeb Bush. If Jeb Bush turns out to be a Roman candle instead of a rocket that goes into orbit, Marco Rubio could raise all that money.
All right, quick, let's see your national security anti-terrorism credential candidates in one and two.
Number one is Rubio.
Yeah.
In the Senate, he actually, unlike a lot of the governors he's competing against with, has foreign policy credentials and is passionate about it.
Okay.
And
Number two,
of course,
Alex.
Then the same would be Jeb would be in number two.
Jeb's number two. Okay. Steve, go.
Number one, Jeb Bush, because he's a Bush.
Well, okay.
And all he has to do is say, you know, my foreign policy is like my dad's. I got all the people around, all the grown-ups are going to manage me and supervise me. Number two, Marco Rubio, for the same reason Alex just said. There's some advantages to being in the Senate. This is one of the few.
All right, here we go. This is my big surprise pick of the day. Rick Santorum is number one because he's the only one with any foreign policy credentials in the entire Republican field. And Marco Rubio number two for the reasons that Alex said.
I got Rubio at 1, and I got Bush at 2, and everybody's already discussed the reasons. Let's put on the board the total for these things.
We total up all those points. Let's see who's ahead in these three categories.
Here's the primary.
Now these are only in these three categories. It's not going to go up there, is it?
No, but it's right there. It's on the TV right there.
It's on the TV.
There's
So
Jeb Bush.
Jeb Bush is first, and Rubio second, and Walker third, and Cruz fourth. Let me ask you guys, does that roughly match up with, we only did a few categories, does that roughly match up with your sense of who's doing well now?
The surprise, I think, is how powerful Rubio is, even on Jeb Bush's shoulder.
I agree with that 100%. I think he's now suddenly, if he's not in the top tier, he's pretty close to the top tier.
We could settle it all right here, couldn't we?
We could.
Do we really have to go through these rounds of
round up the usual suspects?
There are lots of other categories we didn't talk about. One of you, I think it was you, raised the question of internet strength is another category. That's a big one.
Got to be Rand Paul. Got to be Rand Paul.
And also Scott Walker in 3 national campaigns against the unions.
Yeah, interesting.
Watch out for Ted Cruz on that for all the reasons that we've talked about.
By the way,
he's the guy who could really
allow
guys.
Carly Fiorina, 12 white guys on a stage, 1 very smart woman. She's going to pop.
All right.